In linguistics, specifically phonetics and phonology, schwa refers to the mid-central vowel sound in the middle of the vowel chart, denoted by the IPA symbol E unregistered trademark, or another vowel sound close to that position. An example in English is the vowel sound in the A of the word about. Schwa in English is mainly found in unstressed positions, but in some other languages it occurs more frequently as a stressed vowel. In relation to certain languages, the name schwa, and the symbol E unregistered trademark may be used for some other unstressed and toneless neutral vowel, not necessarily mid-central. Etymology: the word schwa is from the Hebrew word shva, designating the Hebrew niqqud vowel sign shva, which in modern Hebrew indicates either the phoneme or the complete absence of a vowel. The term was introduced into European linguistics by Jacob Grimm in the early 19th century, so the spelling sch is German in origin. It was first used in English texts between 1890 and 1895. The symbol E unregistered trademark E was first used by Schmeller for the reduced vowel at the end of German Gabi. Ellis, in his Paleotype alphabet, used it for the similar English sound in but. Description: sometimes the term schwa is used for any epenthetic vowel, even though different languages use different epenthetic vowels. In English, schwa is the most common vowel sound. It is a reduced vowel in many unstressed syllables, especially if syllabic consonants are not used. Depending on dialect, it may correspond to any of the following written letters: A, as in about; E unregistered trademark E banished; E, as in taken; ETE degree AK unregistered trademark N, I, as in pencil; E pay degree ins unregistered trademark L, O, as in eloquent; E unregistered trademark K degree we unregistered trademark NT, U, as in supply; say unregistered trademark E pay degree lay, Y, as in sibyl; E say B unregistered trademark L, various combinations of letters, such as I in mountain; E meshed unregistered trademark N, unwritten as in rhythm; E re. Degree E unregistered trademark M. Schwa is a very short neutral vowel sound, and like all vowels, its precise quality varies depending on the adjacent consonants. In most varieties of English, schwa occurs almost exclusively in unstressed syllables. In New Zealand English and South African English the high front lax vowel has shifted open and back to sound like schwa, and these dialects include both stressed and unstressed schwas. In general American, schwa and eo are the two vowel sounds that can be colored. Colored schwa is used in words with unstressed syllables, such as dinner. See also stress and vowel reduction in English. Quite a few languages have a sound similar to schwa. It is similar to a short French unaccented a, which in that language is rounded and less central, more like an open mid or close mid-front rounded vowel. It is almost always unstressed, though Albanian, Bulgarian, Slovene and Afrikaans are some of the languages that allow stressed schwas. In most dialects of Russian an unstressed a or a reduces to a schwa. In dialects of Kashubian a schwa occurs in place of the Old Polish short consonants u, I, y. Many Caucasian languages and some Uralic languages also use phonemic schwa, and allow schwas to be stressed. In Dutch, the vowel of the suffix lijk, as in Worcestershire is pronounced as a schwa. Any time an a falls at the end of Dutch words, it becomes a schwa. Compare die en het. In the eastern dialects of Catalan, including the standard language variety, based in the dialect spoken in and around Barcelona, an unstressed a or a is pronounced as a schwa. In the dialects of Catalan spoken in the Balearic Islands, a stressed schwa can occur. Stressed schwa can occur in Romanian as in mar florin tura florin, me unregistered trademark tura unregistered trademark. In European and some African dialects of Portuguese, the schwa occurs in many unstressed syllables that end in a, such as noite, tarde, passego, and pecado. However, that is rare in Brazilian Portuguese except in such areas as Curitiba in the state of Paraná. In Neapolitan, a final, unstressed a or euro, and unstressed a and a are pronounced as a schwa, pa zzza, semana, patua lo. the inherent vowel in the Devanagari script, and a Abugida used to write Hindi, Marathi, Nepali, and Sanskrit is a Schwa, written a currency in isolation or to begin a word. Other characters used to represent this sound include a OW in Armenian, a florin in Romanian, and a in Albanian. In Bulgarian Cyrillic, the letter NSH which has a much different orthographic function in modern Russian, is used. In Korean, the letter A is used, though it may also represent an L vowel used in the transcription of foreign consonant clusters, where it may be deleted. In most Sanskrit-based languages, the Schwa currency serves as an implied vowel after every consonant and requires no didactic marks. For example, in Hindi, the character currency is pronounced K unregistered trademark without marking, while currency yen is pronounced K with a marking. Examples in other languages: Albanian, in Albanian, Schwa is represented by the letter a, which is also one of the letters of the Albanian alphabet, coming right after the letter a. Schwa in Albanian can be stressed like in words iamba l/ae unregistered trademark mbe unregistered trademark l/and r. Armenian, in Armenian, Schwa is represented by the letter o. This is occasionally seen word initially, but often finally, as a form of the definite article. Unwritten Schwa sounds are also inserted to break up initial consonant clusters. For example, O cubed O paragraph O cubed O squared O, te florin e unregistered trademark nte florin e unregistered trademark e sparrow. Romanian, in Romanian Schwa is represented by letter a florin, and it is a letter on its own. Unlike some other languages, it can be stressed in words where it is the only vowel such as pa florin or va florin d. Some words, which also contain other vowels, can have the stress on a florin, like in the examples ka florin real and oda florin I. Indonesian and Malaysian, in Indonesian, Schwa can be stressed or not. Generally, the letter a is read as a Schwa. There is also a phenomenon of pronouncing the A in the final syllable as a stressed Schwa. This is only done in colloquial informal speech but never in formal speech. Examples: datang, pronounced DITE unregistered trademark angstrom, and often written as dating in informal writing. Kental, pronounced K unregistered trademark NITE unregistered trademark L. Hitam, pronounced EATE unregistered trademark M, written as item in informal language. Dalam, pronounced Dila unregistered trademark M, often written as Dalum. Malam, pronounced Mala unregistered trademark M, written as Malam in informal language. Indonesian orthography formerly used unmarked a only for the Schwa sound, while the full vowel was written a W. Malay orthography, on the other hand, formerly indicated the Schwa with a while unmarked a stood for. In the 1972 spelling reform that unified Indonesian and Malaysian spelling conventions, it was agreed to use neither diacritic. Hence there is no orthographic distinction any longer between and. Both are spelled with unmarked a. This means the pronunciation of any given letter E in Indonesian and Malay is not immediately obvious to the learner, and must be learned separately. However, in a number of Indonesian dictionaries and Indonesian lesson books for foreign learner, the notation is preserved to help learners produce the right pronunciation. For example, the word for train in Indonesia or wheeled vehicle in Malaysia, which was formerly spelled kira copyright tar in Indonesia and karita in Malaysia, is now spelled kereta in both countries. In Southern Malaysian pronunciation, which is considered the standard, the final letter A represents Schwa, while final A stands for. The dialect of Kedah in northern Malaysia, however, pronounces final A as also. In loanwords, a non-final short may become Schwa in Malay. For example, Mecca. Korean, in Korean, Schwa is represented by the letter A, and is one of the 5 basic vowels, all unrelated with stress accent. Though less satisfactory since there is no corresponding letter in English alphabet for this vowel, a commonly accepted romanization scheme is EO. Schwa syncope, Hindi. Although the Devanagari script is used as a standard to write modern Hindi, the schwa implicit in each consonant of the script is obligatorily deleted at the end of words and in certain other contexts. This phenomenon has been termed the schwa syncope rule, or the schwa deletion rule of Hindi. One formalization of this rule has been summarized as the unregistered trademark of VCCV. In other words, when a vowel-preceded consonant is followed by a vowel-succeeded consonant, the schwa inherent in the first consonant is deleted. However, this formalization is inexact and incomplete, and can yield errors. Schwa deletion is computationally important because it is essential to building text-to-speech software for Hindi. As a result of schwa syncope, the correct Hindi pronunciation of many words differs from that expected from a literal rendering of Devanagari. For instance, AAA is RAM, AA currency SHA is Rakna, AANA is Vardi and AAA currency Yen Euro A is Namkoen. Correct schwa deletion is also critical because, in some cases, the same Devanagari letter sequence is pronounced two different ways in Hindi depending on context, and failure to delete the appropriate schwas can change the sense of the word. For instance, the sequence AAAA currency AAN and AAAAAA currency AAN AA currency, A and an AAAA currency a yen euro AAAA currency AAN a currency is identical prior to the nasalization in the second usage. Yet, it is pronounced dadikni in the first and dadkania to the first in the second. While native speakers correctly pronounce the sequence differently in different contexts, non-native speakers and voice synthesis software can make them sound very unnatural, making it extremely difficult for the listener to grasp the intended meaning. English has the tendency to delete schwa when it appears in a mid-word syllable that comes after the stressed syllable. Kenstowich states that American English schwa deletes in medial posttonic syllables, and gives as examples words such as sep, a, rate, chok, o, late, cam, e, ra and elab, o, rate, where the schwa has a tendency to be deleted. French, schwa is deleted in certain positions in French. For details see French phonology, schwa. Schwa, primum Indo-Germanicum. The comparative method establishes 6 short vowels for Proto-Indo-European. Thanks to the phonetics of the typical reflexes, 5 of these are easy to arrange in a commonplace system, i.e. AOU. But a 6th correspondence set is not so simple, namely unregistered trademark in European languages. Examples: Gothic fadar father, Latin pater, Greek pater, Old Irish ather, but Vedic peter Avestan pter, tar nam sg Gothic daughter, Old Church Slavic dartr, Lithuanian ductor, Vedic duhita Avestan dui cubed degree but Greek thugatar. The obvious slots were all taken, by 5 short vowel reconstructions with strong phonetic claims, and the etymon for this 6th vowel was so to say tucked into the roomiest available space, phonetically speaking, not high, not low, not front, not back, that is the unregistered trademark schwa. And this was not such a bad guess. In Indic, there are prop vowels for otherwise impossible final consonant sequences, and these too become Vedic I, Vedic IRDI nam sg. Heart. The original Indo-European paradigm was based on a neuter-root noun a plus or minus ed/c micron heard, whose endingless nam sg, pre-Indo-European a plus or minus ed, c micron heard had become Proto-Indo-European a plus or minus ar, c micron ha by simplification of the final cluster with compensatory lengthening of the vowel, hence Greek ka, Hittite harter. In Indic, the root final d was restored in the nominative singular, based on all the other cases, but at a cost. A word final cluster is phonologically impossible in Indic, a problem resolved by a phonological commonplace known as a prop vowel. Any vowel would have done, but a neutral vowel is the usual choice. Proto-Indo-Iranian angstrom ha or de unregistered trademark wins by regular sound laws ha irdi. Another example is ved. A car to the first pound I endingless nam sg. Newt. I from also known as to the first pound, root oak. This schwa primum Indo-Germanicum was, however, always slightly odd. seemingly independent occurrences, as in the father words, were rare. More commonly, the unregistered trademark alternated with long vowels, in a clearly patterned system, parallel to the alternation between a short vowel and zero. Root said sit has forms as such in Sanskrit, but the reduplicated present, Zardati sits down reflects CSD with zero grade of the root, that is, the vowel has dropped. Compare the Indic roots the stand, with such forms as asthati arist he stood, but the participle, where the root vowel should drop, is theta stood with I from Schwa. Eventually, Schwa Indo-Germanicum was radically reinterpreted as the reflex of the syllabic laryngeals, and as what is now known as the laryngeal theory was developing into its current form, it was often referred to, at the time, as the theory of consonantal Schwa. There is also a Schwa secundum, namely some kind of reduced state of an originally short vowel. This reconstruction, or rather these reconstructions two different Schwas are commonly deployed as a stopgap, purely. Its supposed reflexes are various and unpredictable. The occurrence of these vowels has no morphological anchor, unlike the whole rest of the ablaut system. In terms of linguistic reconstruction, therefore, it has no explanatory value, being a case of putting the rabbit into the hat for the purpose of taking it back out again. In more technical terms, a Schwa secundum in a reconstruction is actually a case of removing an attested mystery into the proto-language, which is to say, replacing one mystery by another. Most cases of Schwa secundum are not really problems at all, being ordinary cases of leveling, or else the phenomena have other and better explanations. For example, the occurrence of U in Greek for expected O, as in na x night, and fell leaf seems to be regular when expected O is between a labial and a resonant consonant. Note, the Indo-European kinship terms build to a suffix that looks like to, that is father, mother, brother, daughter, and husband's brother's wife, are actually formed by a suffix e unregistered trademark to, that is harta. That is, pe unregistered trademark to is morphologically p high beta to, where the subscript ring means syllabic, ma to mother is actually ma harta, and so on. References. Further reading, the dictionary definition of Schwa at Wiktionary, Mark van Oostendorp. Schwa in Phonological Theory. Retrieved January 29, 2008 A.